guys, welcome back to my channel. So I am Lindsay from Lindsay's Bookish Things, and this is the first video of 2024. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, but with the girls home from daycare and the holidays and I was working, it just got a little busy for the last couple of weeks, but here we are and we're back. And so today we are going to be talking about my top 3 best books of the year and my top 3 worst books of the year. Just a reminder, these are all my opinions. Take with it what you will, but we'll see if we can have some fun talking about it. So I am thinking that what we will do is I will alternate between worst and best books and go from number 3 on each list all the way up to number 1, and that way we're finishing the video with my best book of the year. Sounds like a plan, so let's do it. All right, so my first book that I want to talk about is my third worst book of the year, and I am going to give that to I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. It feels weird to give like a worst book of the year award to a memoir, but I really just did not connect with this one like everyone else did. I did not find myself liking her. So even if, your protagonist or the person who's writing the memoir, if there are things that they do that you don't agree with or don't like, I think that's one thing. You still have to connect with them, and I just really didn't connect with Jennette through this story. There were things that did hit home for me, and I just didn't feel the same way about certain things, and so I just had a really hard time getting into it. I did listen on audiobook. She narrated the story, and so I know this book was super hyped, but that is going to be my number 3 worst book of the year. Okay, so after we did the first worst book of the year, let's talk about my third best book of the year. That is Heavenly Bodies by Imani Areyu. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Was this a perfect book? No, totally, definitely not. You can absolutely tell that it was self-published. It probably could have taken some editing, but I ate this book up. I loved Alara and Enzo. They're kind of like enemies to lovers, although like enemies, I use that term kind of loosely, because I don't know that they ever really like hated each other, especially on Enzo's part. And so I don't care. I really love this. So this book, Heavenly Bodies, is the book 1 of a duology. I have not read book 2 yet, but this is about Alara and Enzo. So Alara has had a prophecy be told that she is going to marry a star and then they both are going to die. She believes that this is some terrible star god person, and so she flees her country after her family dies, and she ends up at Enzo's court where he is the prince. And so it is about how they have to kind of pair up to train to be able to kind of go take her territory back. That is the whole plan. It is a sun and moon or brightness and shadows sort of fantasy story, but either way, I loved it. Okay, on to my second least favorite, I guess is how we could say it, book of the year. That is going to ruffle some feathers, because I know this is a very beloved romantasy author, and I think I'll probably try her other series to actually see if I can get into it a little bit more. But my second worst book of the year goes to Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I was bored. I was bored. I expected more, maybe because there's so much hype around her and around this series. And so I felt like I should have liked it more, but I just didn't. So this book is about Tisana. She is a slave in a kingdom. She escapes her captor and she flees to the capital city where she plans to join this kind of specialized unit of magic users. And she needs to get trained in how to use her magic. She is kind of thrown into the lap of a magic user called Max, and they have to train together. I really didn't feel a connection between Tisana and Max, and I think that's why I didn't like this story that much. I really did not feel the spark. There was no like growth in their relationship. I didn't feel like I feel like one day they didn't really like each other and then all of a sudden the next day they did. And I just wasn't sure that connected with me. There was a lot of political stuff going on, which I usually like. But in this case, it did not hit home. And so I won't be continuing on in the series. I don't know if the other books are supposed to be better, but I just can't. Okay, so next we'll talk about my second best book of the year. And this award goes to Between Two Kingdoms by Suleika Jaouad. This is a very personal book to me. For those of you that have not heard of this memoir before, this is about Suleika's journey through being diagnosed with leukemia, and her journey from kind of before then being diagnosed and then going through chemotherapy and treatment. It is about her family around her, and everyone involved during this time in her life. And I think this book really hit home for me because of my job. So I know I've said it before, but I am a pediatric hospital medicine doctor. I see a lot of kids and treat a lot of kids who are diagnosed with leukemia in close conjunction with our pediatric oncologists. And so reading this story just really kind of wrenched my heart and was just opened my eyes to what the entire family unit goes through during a time like this. She was not always nice, and she was sad and she was angry and she could be hurtful at times, but just seeing everything that she went through during this whole time, I loved it. I really, really loved it. And I just felt like this book was ugly and imperfect and raw. And I think anyone in the healthcare field, especially if you deal with any sort of young adult with cancer, you should either read or listen to this book, because I think it's very eye-opening, since we do only see the one side, our side, and see them only in the hospital and what goes on in the hospital. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. Okay, first drum roll of the video. So my worst book of the year. Again, I don't know if my tastes just don't align with the general public, but my worst book of the year, I feel like, is always one that people really love and an author that people really love. And I almost feel bad and guilty saying that it's my worst book of the year, but my worst book of the year was City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is book 1 in the Mortal Instruments series. And yes, it's YA, but there are a lot of YA that I really enjoy. This one was not it. And you'll see in my December wrap up that I read another Cassandra Clare book, and I also didn't like that very much. So I think there's something about her writing and her stories that just I personally don't connect with, but anyways, with City of Bones, there were definite things that I just was like, no, this is not for me. City of Bones. So this is an older YA story, I would say. It's from the very beginning of the whole Shadowhunters world that Cassandra Clare has built. And really what this is about is Clary. She is a 15-year-old girl. She witnesses this murder, then her mom disappears, and she gets caught up in this world of the Shadowhunters who kind of fight off demons. She meets Jace, and then there's like this like flirty relationship. And I found this book, the whole book was really predictable. In fact, I actually predicted the twist, multiple twists that came up in the end. And so for that reason, I didn't like it. And the one twist, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but like the one twist was like, just made me feel icky inside. And so, yeah, I couldn't look past it, and I really didn't like it. And so will I be picking up any more Cassandra Clare based on this one? And then the one I read in December, although it wasn't the worst book of the year, again, I just didn't connect with it. No, I think that's the last time I'll be picking up her as an author. And like I said, I feel very guilty about it because I know people really love her. But that's a hard no for me. All right. And then my top favorite book of the year, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I loved this book. And as you guys can see from my last video until now, I did get a physical copy so that I could have it on my shelf and I could reread it whenever I want, because I read a lot of ebooks that I get out from Libby or library books. And so I'm trying to limit my book buying to those that I would know that I will like, or ones like this that I just adored and I want to have on my shelf. I loved everything about this book. Book Lovers is about Nora Stevens. She is a book agent, a literary agent. She's fierce and she is tough, and she goes on a trip with her sister because her sister convinces her to go on this trip to this little small town in North Carolina where their favorite romance author has like based her stories in, and she kind of comes up with this like bucket list for them to do. While she is there, she meets her kind of like, not rival, but like this guy she just doesn't really like, this book editor from New York. She happens to run into him there, and they start up a relationship, and it just is the kind of like, will they, won't they sort of picture. And I thought this book was so sweet. I love the side stories that go along with it, the parts with her sister and the stories about her, the parts with her sister where they're talking about their past. And it's just, I love that they saw their past differently. I love that they see their future differently, but they still love each other down to the core. And that these two people who, although both from New York, end up in North Carolina and end up in this like nice flirty relationship. I really, really enjoyed it. So this is a 5 out of 5. I highly recommend. And that is my favorite book of the year. All right, guys. So those were my top 3 worst books of the year and my top 3 best. Let me know what yours were, because, you know, I would just love to hear it, especially your top 3 best books, because I'm always looking for book recommendations. And so I would love to hear from you guys. All right. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.